Is this my?
Yeah, okay.
They are.
People like,
Is this on? There's some feedback.
Yeah, there's feedback.
Okay. Sometimes meaning to make it might be the TV. Yep. Thanks. Yeah.
You're right.
Okay. Yeah. We'll be right with everybody. I think it was just coincidence. Oh, perfect timing.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Judy.
Fantastic pants.
Well, thank you. I designed them myself.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hello.
The mic is live.
Put it in my belly pocket.
Belly pocket.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is, my watch doesn't work, a few minutes after 6 on February 27th, and we are calling this meeting of the Danvers Accessibility Commission to order. We do have a quorum. Welcome. We have people in our audience, and it's fantastic. And we have a guest today. So I'm going to just jump right in and go to approval of our December minutes. And if you didn't get a chance to see them, I do have a couple copies floating around. Do I have a motion to approve our minutes? Okay, Fawn motioned. I'm gonna write that down. Actually, can I get somebody to take notes? They don't have to be super specific. I just, running the meeting and taking notes are not, I don't do a very good job at that. Okay. So thank you. So I have a motion to approve the minutes from December. Do I have a second?
Second, third.
We're pretty chill, like, meeting group. Okay, so Amy seconded and JD thirded. All those in favor of approving the minutes from December?
Aye.
Aye. Awesome, they are approved. Cool. Okay, so we do have a moment of public comment. So this is for anybody who's in the audience here with us or online who may have questions or comments that are not otherwise listed on our agenda today. Does anybody have comment? Okay. So then next we have a guest. I'm very excited to introduce, we have Noah Levitt here today. He works at the Northeast Arc and then also is a resident here in Danvers and over social media. I think you mentioned that you were doing this audit and then I was like, please come to our meeting and talk about it. So it's all
Happy
yours.
to. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So a few weeks ago, a couple miles down the road in Beverly, I participated in a walk audit that was hosted by a great organization called Walk Massachusetts. So folks aren't familiar with Walk Massachusetts, I'm not affiliated with them, but they are a nonprofit that basically works with communities to make them more accessible, focus on better access for pedestrians, create thriving downtowns, that sort of thing. And one of the things they really focus on is doing these walk audits where they'll go into a community and sort of look at problem areas and really drill down and focus on what are the barriers for accessibility, barriers for safety, things like that. So what we did was we completed a walk audit in downtown Beverly. So we started at Gentilly Brewing, if folks are familiar with that, right near the MBTA station, and did sort of a 1 mile loop up onto Cabot Street, around, and then back down on the other side of the MBTA station. We probably had about 30 people. And so basically what you do during a walk audit is you're basically really zeroing in on every sort of aspect of someone's experience, either walking, rolling along the sidewalk, crossing the streets. I personally found it really enlightening as someone who is in that area a lot, but sometimes I'm biking through, sometimes I'm maybe just walking right to a restaurant. I'm not sort of present in sort of what's going on. And it was really enlightening to sort of look at things like, okay, here's where the sidewalk is cracked, or actually that crosswalk has really poor visibility. There's people are rolling through that stop sign. Why is that? The traffic, there's no signal in this area, things like that. So it was quite a detailed look at exactly sort of how the street was designed, built, identify areas for improvement. And so sort of the takeaway was, I remember Beverly has a transportation advisory committee. I think it's technically they have a bike pedestrian committee. And so they basically were going to go to the city, make some recommendations, sort of hear things that could be improved, et cetera. I think, I'd mentioned this to Christy as sort of a item that, see if there's any interest in perhaps doing this in Danvers, perhaps downtown. I thought it was really fantastic. And sort of the way it was structured is, Walk Massachusetts gave a brief presentation about what they do, about sort of what a walk audit is, things to look out for, and then I didn't bring it tonight, but I'm happy to send it to you, Chris, or anyone else. Sort of a a worksheet, basically, thing like questions, things to look out for, etc. And then we came back and had like a little bit of a debrief, and everyone sort of turned in their sheet. So, and what I really liked about that is you get a lot of different perspectives. So you might get someone from a perspective, someone older, someone younger, maybe someone in a wheelchair. Someone who's never been to Beverly, someone who's been there for years. You get a lot of different perspectives on accessibility. So, I'd love to, if there's interest in that, I'd love to maybe connect folks to Walk Massachusetts, see if we could do something in Danvers. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions folks might have about the walk audit or how it played out, or if I missed anything.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you. Anybody questions? Yeah. Can you please go up to the mic to ask? Right. It is. It's for accessibility so that because we are televised. Thank you.
Very interesting. I have, I guess, two questions. Is this more of a social benefit for people, or is it more of a hazard liability issue for the town, or a combination of both? Because I see benefits for both the town and for individuals.
Yeah, so I think it's a good question. So I would say it's a combination of both. I think to the social benefit, one of the things that sort of we were looking at is sort of how welcoming are these streets for people to be spending time on, going in and out of restaurants, shops, et cetera. Like, are these sidewalk streets designed in a way where people would spend time? But then I think there is also more the hazard aspect of, there's a huge crack in the sidewalk there, or the way this crosswalk is designed, there's poor visibility, so someone could potentially be hit by a car. So I viewed it as both. I don't know if other folks here have any sort of thoughts or reactions to that.
I mean, so the person that was kind of leading it, were they familiar with the area like well before like you guys did, or did you kind of go in essentially with like no preconception of what the area was going to be like?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the person from Walk Massachusetts, I think, was loosely familiar, but what they did was they had a liaison sort of on the Beverly side, so a member of the bike pedestrian committee. So that was the person who actually designed the route. So the idea is that like the municipality is the one saying, hey, we think this is an area of focus, and then Walk Massachusetts sort of comes in and is like, okay, here's how we can organize this and do this. So sort of guidance from the city or town, and then they sort of would run the audit. So that's a good question.
Cool.
Yeah.
And was it purely like just kind of seeing what could be fixed, what could be made better? Or did it come up at all like, oh, this is tough to do because it's like historical area, or, some kind of like caveats that they might be dealing with if they did want to remedy some of these situations?
Yeah, that's a good question. That didn't come up in this particular audit, I think partially because it was that section of, and I was mistaken when I said Cabot, it was actually Rantoul Street, sorry. But it was that section of Rantoul that's basically been like almost completely redesigned recently. So that didn't come up. But I do know that's something that does come up pretty frequently, sort of essentially like barriers to increasing accessibility or to making changes. Yeah, it's a good question.
A second.
My other question, to be a little bit more clear, is the town held responsible? Is the town responsible and held for, I guess, safety issues in walking around town? Or are they liable to be sued for someone falling on public streets and sidewalks and stuff like that?
Does someone on the commission want to take that one?
It depends. So it's actually, town property is measured from the center of the road out into the sidewalk area. And then I don't remember the exact measurement right now, but it stops. And so often the sidewalk part is actually part of, especially in residential areas, is residential ownership. And that's, again, we're going to be discussing snow removal later. But that's again why, like, people who own the homes are the ones, or the businesses are the ones who are responsible for snow removal. And so when it comes to sidewalk stuff, usually it's the landowner who is liable for any injuries.
So how does that apply to like downtown or the public areas that are not residential?
Well, so those, they're still owners of those buildings. They're just commercial.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. 'Cause I
I'm
see-
also not a lawyer, though.
Yeah.
So I just know from actually from they talked about this at Citizens Academy, right? Did that come up for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. So but it can be complicated
Yeah.
depending on how big the road is and.
Yeah. I guess I was just wondering how to mitigate any possible problems for the town, in addition to preparing the streets and the roads for
Right.
social activities that would enhance quality of life.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but it's a great idea,
Yeah, thank you.
so
Thank you.
hope it
Thanks.
works.
Any other questions from the commission?
Do you know if there was any particular cost to Beverly to be able to contract with us, or is this nonprofit that's, pro bono type situation?
That is a good question. I do not believe there was any cost. I mean, there were some minimal costs in that they like ordered pizza for folks and stuff like that, but the brewery, it was nice. It was posted by a local brewery. The owner actually joined, which was really cool. So my understanding is that the audit itself is free. I'm not sure. I can get more information, though, if there are costs, because I can reach out to the person who was coordinating it. And I will say, too, what was really nice about this was they ended up pulling in folks from other communities. So it wasn't just folks from Beverly. Sort of the model is they want people from other communities to attend, learn about how these audits work. So I think if we want to do something here, we could try to do something similar. Maybe we get folks from neighboring communities. But I'll reach out and get some information on the cost.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And how long from interest is it before a group would be organized to do the said walk? Is there like a 6 months from now, or is it sooner, or?
I would say for this, this was about, I think, in that, I think it was like a 5 or 6 month process. So I think it's a fairly long process just to sort of get it scheduled. Because this happened in January, and I had first heard about it in November, and in November it had already been planned. So I think they were working on this over the summer. So there probably is a long tail to it. But I'll get more specific information on that as well in terms of how long from, interest to actually carrying it out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, just thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. This is
thanks so much,
fantastic.
dude.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the
We
opportunity.
love having guests. And feel free to stay with us if you like,
I will.
but there's no requirement.
I'm excited for the discussion on snow removal.
Yes. Pass this down. Okay, so we are going to move to our next item is the Joint Crisis Response Team. We did discuss this in December, and I realized as typing up the notes that we did take a vote on it, but I specifically wanted to figure out who from the commission would like to be on this. For a refresher, we discussed having a Joint Crisis Response Team that is 1 or 2 people from our commission and 1 or 2 people, maybe 3, from Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, to be able to get together very quickly if there is an incident, to have a response, either in writing or to other types of response. And so we did say it was a great idea. So if there's anybody interested in being that person,
I'm definitely interested.
Okay.
I can too.
Okay, awesome. So then, I don't think we have to vote again. I don't think, right? We voted on this in December. I'm asking as if any of us know. Okay. I'm just gonna write that. Cool. I will get you guys, I mean, JD's already in touch, but in touch with Paul, who is the chair of HRIC right now. And this isn't like set in stone permanent, so if anybody's really interested in doing that at some point, we can figure it out. It just, for us, no more than 2 people can be on that team, because otherwise we are a quorum, so.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Next item. Fun.
I have not a lot to still report, but things are moving forward on the crosswalk. So just as a recap, in late December, we reached out to Aaron Henry to see about the possibility of having some say in the appearance of the crosswalk that's going to be placed
We've
in
been
front of
heard.
Western Cycle when they move it.
Move the mic.
Oh, thank you, sorry. I'm so bad about that. We looked into, in December, trying to participate in this process of designing the crosswalk to have some sort of really positive, inclusive accessibility message. And we got initial really positive response to that, and then we didn't hear much for a while. So we have had more contact from Aaron Henry. In February, early of this month, he did email me back. He thought we should include the town engineer, who I believe is Josh Morris, and they met together and thought they should also include the engineering consultant, whose name I don't know, but the 3 of them are working together to try to come up with a meeting time. As far as I know, the school and Mr. Surratt are still very much on board with this, and the town seems to think that this will move forward. They think there's maybe some barriers to this, but they seem to think it will be overcomeable, to use a word that doesn't really exist. So that's the last thing I have. He had said that he thought a meeting would happen in the next couple weeks. That is, of course, now. So I'm just giving him a little more time, because
Yeah.
it sounds like they have a lot on their plates, and it sounds like he's really trying to be pretty proactive with this. But I'm hoping in the next week to hear, and if not, I may drop him a line and just say, do we have any further confirmation on when we might be able to meet? And I'm more than happy to attend that meeting. Christy and I helped form some questions so that I'm hopefully prepared for that meeting. If anyone has specific questions to add, I'm happy to maybe send you or JD the questions that we
Yeah, I'd
put
love to see
together, and then we could see if anyone wants to look at those and add to them, just so we can try to make that meeting super productive.
That's great.
Awesome, thank you.
Any questions from commission members? Yes. I did actually, after we talked, Fawn, Aaron was at the Housing Authority meeting, or was it the Housing Authority or the Affordable Housing Trust? I think, where they were talking about the plan, Danvers. So I grabbed 2 minutes of his time at the very, very end. And one of the things he said is that he's really excited about the idea of having community members do the painting too, which will actually then save cost. And that when it comes to cost, it's okay that we don't have any money. So as a commission, that should be covered. So
Okay.
We can hold them to that.
Great.
Okay. Okay, so next item on our agenda is JD, seen and heard.
Cool, so, yeah, seen and heard, we have an episode filming this coming week on Wednesday on, oh my gosh, I keep forgetting the name of what it is, lipedema. Lipedema or lipidemia?
Oh,
Lipedema?
Lipedema.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about that, which is really interesting, I feel like, because I feel like that's one that gets misconstrued so much. And so I'm really kind of interested in having that discussion and kind of opening the floor for that. So that'll probably take me like a week or 2 to get up after that, but I'm excited for that one. We're going to do that. And then when we were talking about the walking audits, I kind of had like a thought that I could do my own, just like kind of like private walking, well, rolling audit around town as part of like the social media part of the show, and then it could also be on the channel.
That'd be awesome.
And it could just kind of like live as that, as like a kind of like an indie version, you know?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Awesome. I've loved every episode that I've seen except for mine, but only because it's hard to watch yourself.
It's hard, it's definitely
Like, I
hard to
keep
watch yourself, but I
catching-
feel like yours was super informative.
Thank you. You're a great interviewer. So if you haven't had a chance to see those, they are on lots of platforms, YouTube and Instagram and
TikTok.
TikTok. Okay. So then our next item, I realized that I didn't finish typing the whole sentence. It says 2025 meeting schedule and. Just and.
Just wanted us to live in suspense.
It is, and who knows, and disco party maybe. So mostly, I did want to update. We are on the schedule for every fourth Thursday through 2025 in this room, with the exception of March, I believe. I will triple check that before our next meeting. They are going to be doing ballot placement, and so I also think even though we have the room in April, we may also get kicked out in April too. So I'm going to look and see if we can get into the senior center for that night in advance so that we aren't kicked out at the last minute. I'll make myself a note. But otherwise, we should be all set. And the "and" was supposed to be, this is our 2-year meeting mark, which means it is transfer of power time. So what I think from a procedural standpoint, we do still need to vote on JD becoming chair, and we need somebody to become the vice chair who would be in line for the next 2 years. So somebody who is, and actually I don't have that in front of me, who is not up for renewal next year, 2026. So I feel like,
I'm not sure how to know that.
I don't know, it's on the website.
It's on the
I should have looked.
I can look.
Oh, thank you. Is anybody interested in being vice chair? See all the, this is what happens. This is why I was like, I'm so excited, to transfer. But we need somebody to. The terms should be, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Fawn, actually, you're up this year for reappointment.
Okay.
So we can work on, if you're interested in staying, then we'll just, I think it's just a letter to, I would assume, the acting town manager at this point. Mara's also up, and so I'll let her know as well. And so, actually, there's nobody in 27. You guys.
Just us, the
Okay.
alternatives, or alternates.
I don't know what to say. I'm not usually speechless. Why don't we say it doesn't have to be somebody who's up for 2 years, but rather anybody who's interested in being vice chair. And then we also, at some point, so I would ask you to think about this going forward, figure out a rotation for alternate into member. We never really did that. It was just, they were just created this way. Because I do think that would be good for you guys to be able to rotate in and have the opportunity to be the officers. I guess that's the term. So, thoughts, questions, excitement of being vice chair? Do you want to share what the responsibilities have been?
I mean, for me, I feel like Chrissy does the lion's share. I just try and kind of support her and see what's going on and just kind of volunteer myself for stuff. But I guess there's not a huge amount of logistics at all. I'm essentially just another member. Yeah, because you do all the meeting prep and stuff like that. So I get, yeah, all the stuff I have done wasn't really in the capacity of the vice chair anyway.
Well, I think, being part of meetings with Human Rights and Inclusion Committee outside.
Oh, yeah.
And talking to people in town hall and saying, hi, I'm the vice chair.
Right, that stuff,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
You get that added,
I was thinking about like
gravitas.
the kind of like, documents and projects we talked about, and those weren't really like in the capacity of
Yeah.
vice chair.
Yeah. So it's not really a lot of work.
Except when you then rotate into.
Yes, exactly.
I do feel compelled to mention that.
Well, I will say this is, and it's not a, it's part of this, so I think it's part of the meeting. But as you know, I sent individual emails, and we are having conversations to make sure that there is somebody who's going to be in that director position that Jasmine left. So I'll hopefully, fingers crossed, that happens. A lot of the administrative stuff would get lifted off. So, the last couple of months have been more challenging as far as like preparation for meetings. But being chair is mostly just about running this meeting. Occasionally, there are things where, I had frequent meetings with Jasmine, but that was partly also talking about larger kind of town dynamics. But the lift isn't gigantic outside of these meetings. So it's usually like prepping the week before, making sure I send an email asking for agenda items, and then making sure that the agenda is ready, and that it gets turned in more than 48 hours in advance so that it gets posted on time. It's a good experience. Plus, we're not scary. None of you are scary. And our guests are never scary.
I'm terrified.
So, anybody? Nobody? Oh my gosh.
I don't want to just be silent. This is not helpful, but just to explain, I love what we're doing.
Yeah.
I'm intimidated by the amount of work that I feel that I've seen you do, especially. And when I look ahead to 2 years, I don't think.
Well, it's hard to know.
Feels
Yeah.
doable, because I just don't know where life will be then, so I hesitate to commit.
I get
We
that.
could do shorter rotations.
Yeah, we could do 1 year. It doesn't have to be. We did 2 years because I committed to getting the commission off the ground, and at 1 year, it didn't feel like we had really done very much because there were so many moving pieces. But it doesn't, we make up the rules for this commission. It doesn't have to be, we don't have bylaws. We tried, right? We don't have bylaws. And the town doesn't have a rule on that for commissions and committees. So it really is up to this group. We could say that, and JD is chair, and we could have some co-vice chairs, and then next year, whoever's feeling ready to step up can do that. And if neither of those people are ready to step up, there are other people here, and we can figure it out then.
Yeah, because I guess we don't have to set in stone like the length of the.
No. The other thing is we could just vote Mara in. She's not here.
That's right, we don't have bylaws.
I mean, she kind of takes like the notes and stuff,
But we can,
It's like a vice cherry type
yeah,
thing.
I'm gonna speak for Mara, that's not fair.
I know it's not. I know.
Sorry,
I just
Mara.
like to, break the tension with humor.
You do it well.
My question is, do we need to make this decision tonight?
No.
Or can we table this for the next meeting to give people an opportunity to process and think and consider and then move forward?
Yes, we can table it. Yeah, yeah. So, and then the question is, do you want to be chair at the end of tonight, or do you want to wait?
I don't mind. I can take over and take that off your plate.
That's not why I was asking.
Oh, no,
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay. So then, so for our new chair, do I have a motion to accept JD as the new chair of the Accessibility Commission?
So moved.
And do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
2 thumbs up.
Nice.
Cool. Okay, I will get the agenda template fixed. I can't fix our name tags, so,
Oh, the name tags.
That's what I noticed when we got in here. We'll figure it out.
Oh, I didn't, wait, what does mine say
It
underneath?
says vice chair.
Wait, so what's, oh, to like adjust those, I see.
Yeah.
Where did these come from?
Jasmine made them.
Oh, Jazz, I can make these.
Okay. Yeah, and like
I
I
have the
said, there's
town,
like an
I already have
Avery.
the town seal for making the tablecloth.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, yeah. They cleaned out Jasmine's office, so this is why I'm like I had to go, it was effort to find these today. Okay.
My beautiful tablecloth.
It's in there somewhere. It's either there or it's in my garage.
Oh, okay.
I will look.
Whatever,
So
I can always make another.
We did tabling.
We did tabling, but I didn't have it. It came after.
Oh.
Yeah, it came after. We had it for the,
Okay,
Yeah.
the Holton Richmond.
right, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna, tablecloth. Okay. Next item. It's a big one. But we're ahead of schedule. So, so I have on here Section 504 in the national news. I didn't feel that it was right for us to have a meeting of the Accessibility Commission and not address this giant elephant in the country that was not planned. With regard to Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, many of you probably know that there are 17 states right now that have joined Texas in a lawsuit against the, aiming to get rid of Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. The language supposedly was to push back against trans rights and trans inclusion, but the way that the lawsuit is written is to remove that section entirely. And that has huge implications for the disability community, for students, for people who need access to healthcare, which is everybody, for just basically everybody with a disability in the US. And so I did just want to hold space for that, and if anybody had questions or comments about it. Here in Massachusetts, our actions primarily are to, if you are interested, is to reach out to our Attorney General and ask her to write an amicus brief against the lawsuit, and also to enshrine disability rights in Massachusetts law. But it still can feel pretty awful to know that this is happening. So I wanted to make sure it was on our agenda, that we were talking about it, thinking about it. So any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I mean, like the Reeve Foundation's usually really quick with these things about like reaching out to like people who are involved in that community. So I got a notice about that early on, and I think they were kind of pointing us towards, yeah, a lot of our like officials who would be taking like extra office hours or something to, not extra office hours, what is it called? Like when you do like an open forum kind of where you can talk to them. Yeah, town hall, that's what I was looking for. I think Seth Moulton was doing one of, is doing one of those or was doing one. And
He did phone one.
oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the Attorney General. So I think that was kind of it. And then aside from that, like, kind of advocacy, because we're at a point right now where it's like getting done, but it's not there, and people aren't really just like, people aren't sure what to do about it. So when you're not sure, you kind of get, you know, just paralyzed by it, and then it happens. So I feel like it's important to sort of know what power we have as individuals with this. So I think the Attorney General thing is a great idea. And then I think I'm going to be doing some more research just to see what I can affect, like on a larger level outside of Massachusetts.
Yeah, if you know anybody who lives in one of those states, you know, having them reach out to their attorney generals is probably helpful too. And I just remembered, so there, Sarah Novick, she's an author. She wrote, now I'm totally blanking on the name of the book. Hold on, I'm looking her up. She's been doing a weekly update on Disability Rights Watch. True Biz, that's the book. I don't know why I couldn't think of it. Her Instagram account is Photon, Photon, then OVIC. And I found that those updates are really helpful for understanding and kind of compiling all of the things that are happening right now with regard to disability rights, because it's not just Section 504. There are lots of aspects like removing accessibility from language and science grants, and so if you are on Instagram, I recommend looking at. If you are not, and I'm happy to like gather it and share it out as I see them. So,
I was in touch with somebody who's connected to the Attorney General's office here in Massachusetts, and the recommendations that came out of communication with them was that regarding Section 504, Massachusetts is, I don't want to say they're on it, that sounds terrible, but, or not terrible, it sounds like it's permissive, like,
Yeah.
right? But they're managing that piece, but the recommendation has been really reaching out to, what they were saying is, yes, we are tackling this, but looking at how we can lean into our state representatives to really codify and really look at how we forge forward as a state to ensure that we're doing right by our citizens here, even though that, is going to the national level. So that was, kind of my touch with, the Attorney General's office over the past, it feels like 100 eons, but like, it was like last week, with that piece of it. And so I haven't heard any updates. I know that on the 25th, they were kind of moving to a place of what happens next.
Yeah.
I checked out for just a second, haven't quite heard that update. But it started me down this path as well, and I mentioned to a couple different people that we here have talked as well about the power of film and the power of, seeing and history and learning from our history, right, and going forward, and that education piece. And I think that, people have forgotten about Section 504 in particular. They've forgotten about all of the civil rights movement that happened, and all of the sit-ins, and, all of those things that have happened. And it made me think about film. It made me think about how do we create perhaps an opportunity for our community to remember some of that through the medium of film. Do we look at, offering some sort of opportunity? That was one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about here today, because I know we've had some different conversations, myself with different people, and that theme keeps coming up again and again. So there are a couple really good films that really look at that, documentaries that look at that help us reframe the context that we're in right now.
Yeah.
I know one of those would definitely be Crip Camp on Netflix,
Yeah.
which really hammers home what they went through being there and doing those sit-ins, and how torturous that was to try and get that movement. So I think that's definitely a good one. I think it would be interesting to see who is around in our community specifically, but just in general, that was involved or kind of peripheral to that stuff at the time, that maybe has a more primary first-hand account. That would be interesting. Like, I could even have them on Seen and Heard or something.
Yeah, I just, last spring, the Office on Disability meeting, it was like a mini conference. They actually had a film that was talking about the activists who helped make the T more accessible. They had a lawsuit, and it was like years of work to make it so that there were elevators and ramps and wider doors. I will look back and see if I can figure that out, because it was very informative, and I didn't know. I wasn't from here, and I just assumed that it had always been the way it is, and it's not. It has not. It's actually not. Still has some issues, but there are a lot of time and energy went into making the T more accessible.
There was a film that we screened where I work last year that was called Lives Worth Living. I find the title of that documentary very pertinent to some of the language that we're hearing these days. And so it's a very powerful film. It's only an hour in duration. So it's something that could easily be paired with a first-person account of something that would relate to that. And it similar to Crip Camp, delineates that time period and kind of, you see those images of, people crawling up the steps of the Capitol and like all of those firsthand pieces. So that is also a nice one to think about.
I mean, I think a lot of these accommodations too almost come as a luxury to some of the able-bodied people are using them. They're like, oh, I've got more room for my family or my luggage or whatever. It's stuff that ultimately benefits everybody. In some way, even if it's something small.
Absolutely. Lauren and I both went to the Amplifying Voices, and you went too.
I went both nights. We went to
different times. Amplifying Voices Film Festival in Beverly a couple weeks ago. And I had an opportunity to talk to some of the organizers afterwards, and I got their contact info because we had already started talking a little bit like what could we do, and they were very open to either like opening up the doors of that Amplifying Voices to include disability as a perspective, or possibly giving us guidance on like what we could do. Because if we're thinking about the Section 504 issue, and part of the issue is education, that people don't know what this does. I think a lot of people only have heard about it if they have a kid who needs accommodations at school and don't realize really just how expansive that law is.
Yeah. And looking at, the historical context of this law was passed and then nothing happened, right? And, just the literal fight to get, something was enacted, but it was not enforced. There was
Yeah.
nothing.
Honestly, that's true of most accessibility laws.
Yeah.
Until
But to your
somebody
point,
fights
I
it.
think, that piece of privilege, right? You don't know unless you know, because you either have to know or you're adjacent, and that really comes down to, kind of like what JD's talking about, this idea of storytelling, this idea of the normalization of, human experiences, and I think film really does a nice job of pulling that together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Amy, I'm going to see if I'm following you. Are you thinking that perhaps we could help
Erin,
sponsor
I'm so
some
sorry. You speak that way and your hand's here, so
Oh,
I can't hear what you're saying.
Yes, I apologize. I'm wondering, are you thinking we could somehow sponsor or arrange for a screening?
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like that's
okay.
something that would be very appropriate.
What if we tried to partner with the schools in some way? It seems like that would be
Be a nice
perhaps
option.
controversial, but also perhaps a really good partnership.
I love the idea of them being able to make films for it also.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess something that popped into my mind, but I don't know that this would work, or maybe not for this year, but, our school systems do so many theater-type performances. I wonder if we could have like a screening before. And, people who have tickets, they would already be able to have access, so there wouldn't be a cost. But you have that audience that's sort of already planning to be there. I just feel like sometimes this event would be great, but
But
you
people
end up
don't
having
show
the
up.
same people
Yeah.
who would
Who go
tend
to
to
the
attend,
things, yeah.
would attend, and maybe this would help get a larger audience if the school was
Yeah.
willing to partner with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the beating heart, right? Like, we have our downtown area, but that's like so much of the activity around the town, and so much of the population is based around like the high school. So I feel like that's really gonna get so many people that are there, and then the peripheral people off of them, and the tertiary people off of them. So I think
And
think
all
that's
the
a great
middle
idea.
school productions are
Yeah.
not going to be at the high school right now, so,
Really?
yeah, they're not using the middle school at all, so.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
It's all this year officially.
Yeah. I was just thinking that, like, if we could also get students to see it, like, whatever it is that is chosen to work with principals and superintendent and have students, because I know we've talked about doing the human library and got stalled, but this is another opportunity to show kind of the disability experience. And a lot of people just don't ever think about it until it's right there, right? Or until they're experiencing it.
Would there be a cost incurred to show any of these films? Do we know?
It depends on the
It
film.
depends on the film,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to acquire rights or, it depends on.
I had just been looking at, there's a film about book challenges called Band Together, and their cost was $500. So it's not astronomical. I think again, it depends on the film. I've been told that right now, we work with HRIC on funding. So we could talk with them and see if that's something that they would support. I'm still working on getting us a budget.
Some of the films might be, happy to see that it's like for an education purpose.
Right, yeah.
So they might want to cut us a break.
Yeah.
And I have a Danvers Cares meeting next week, so this would be something good to bring up with them.
Absolutely.
Because I'll be right in the high school.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely, and they have money too.
Yeah.
I know that, through work, we sponsored, in a different key, a film at the Cabot more recently, and that was something that I had reached out to the superintendent to say, hey, this is something that's a great opportunity for students, that type of thing. And he shared that information with, kind of his weekly, email update or whatever, but like thinking about the power of, that piece and what does that do? And
Absolutely. So then, as an action item, is anybody interested in kind of starting that investigation to see what could this cost and what could we bring to town?
I'm happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll kind of tackle it from like the Danvers Cares side and see what they're, I'll bring that information back to us.
Okay. Awesome. Other thoughts on kind of even just the larger landscape of what's happening with regard to disability rights? Yep, it's from the audience. Yep. I would need you to go to the microphone. I'm sorry. I know.
It sounds incredibly interesting, and I commend you for being so well-informed and sharing the information. As far as distribution and making the public aware of it, the school idea, Fawn, is a great idea. But it also made me think of the library, of course, and of hospitals, medical situations here, because families not only have students in schools, but they visit their pediatricians or medical facilities at every age, whether it's students, middle-aged people, or the elderly. So there's got to be ways for them to be well-informed and participating as well as students. So if you could disseminate information in areas where it would encourage people of all ages to share their lives and how they live with situations that are helping them live quality lives, I guess.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I had shared our living room conversations with occupational therapy office, but didn't think to kind of for other events as well. So, thank you.
Well, while you're talking about all these things too, I'm really new at, this is the first meeting I've ever been to.
Oh, welcome.
But I was looking at, someone drew me to the website, the town website. And I was looking at some of these committee meetings that are going on, and some of them really interest me, so I was going to hop in a couple of them. But I noticed on all the agendas, they're very, very brief. So for people who are not familiar with your committee specifically or any of the others, you cannot tell by the agenda with a word or two of what's on the agenda as to what it is, never mind what it's going to entail in terms of a discussion. So I guess my recommendation would be to have your agenda be a little bit more informative, so people who are just happen to see it, they'll have enough information that'll spur some interest in them. And also in terms of your role and your role, JD, if the agenda has sort of a template where it describes both your roles, then maybe people who are not familiar with the committee but are used to being in supervisory managerial roles, committee heads, things like that, they may be willing to share their professional knowledge and join the committee for any role.
Thank you.
But the agendas on all the committees are very
Yeah.
not informative very well at all, and I found that disappointing.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Thank
Okay.
you. I generally, from public comment, we don't always have to respond, but I do feel like you deserve a response for that. Part of it is just real estate. And for us, we actually make sure that that the text is large enough that anybody with vision disabilities can still see it. And the template is not easy to work with. Sorry, excuse me.
But I was also
But that's a good
thinking,
point.
I forget what prompted this thought, but the senior center would be a good spot
Yeah.
for us to maybe
Yeah.
post something to try and find someone who would have maybe been involved with some of the human rights stuff at that time,
Yeah.
like when the Judy Human stuff was going on. And
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. We're just about on track. Our next, well, I don't want to move unless if everybody is ready for, okay, cool. Next order of business is a discussion about snow removal, and I have Amy, so she brought it forward.
Yes, so I attended the select board meeting last week, I think. I think it was last week, all the times blending together. And so they were discussing specifically snow removal, because there was, they were talking about emails that had come to the select board regarding snow removal and talking about, the responsibility of the town and how there's really not a law that says anything regarding snow removal. Just a few days before that, some guidance, actually on Valentine's Day, I think it was put out by the Massachusetts Office on Disability regarding snow removal and accessibility in Massachusetts. They had just put out some standards for accessibility, who's responsible for removing snow and how to get help. So it really is some standards. There's some of the guidance here is around, well, towns can adopt their own bylaws, right? But it was something that I brought up because ADA does play into it. There are some legal obligations around, areas that are owned by the municipality and businesses, things like that. So, so I just, kind of brought up, hey, this guidance just came out, and shared it with Rodney Conley. The select board asked me to, or said, we'll put that, we'll look at it, we'll investigate it, kind of thing. So that was what I did.
Do you think that there is the potential for creating bylaws?
I don't know, to be honest. In just looking at this, there are some places, again, it's more of like a guidance, like this is what you might be able to do. I think, hopefully, at one of the future meetings, they will address it again. And I'll keep an eye out
Yeah.
regarding that. Because there is an accessibility feature to it, and our guidance here in town is it's not great.
So am I incorrect in the belief and understanding that you can be ticketed as a homeowner if your sidewalk in front of your house is not cleared? I was always under that impression.
I was under it as well, and to be honest, I dug into to try to see, is there a bylaw for that, and where did I see that? And I couldn't find it. And their response was, when they were discussing it, was that there's not really a law, essentially, that says X, Y, or Z.
No, at the state level.
At the state
Yeah.
level.
I think.
And yet you're responsible if someone gets injured.
Yes.
Well, that's a liability
Yeah.
piece.
But it just seems so backwards to me. There's no responsibility
Up front.
written in.
Right.
But you are responsible.
Yeah. They leave it up to local towns, and that's essentially what it is.
I believe, was it Peabody recently there was a news article about them doing more enforcement. But yeah, it is a local one. And I have not looked into our town laws. I think this would be something that probably would have to be a warrant that goes up to town meeting, but it's a good conversation to have. And it's not just about, disability, but rather it's also about safety for everybody. And, if you have been walking out this week, it was really bad.
Yeah.
So,
I was wondering, Amy, if you came across anything about, I find, I'm sure JD does as well, that they tend to dump the snow in a handicapped spot. So places are losing 1 to 2 spots.
Yeah.
Some of them only have 2 spots, so it's only 1. And it's not just snow. I find that also happens in the spring when they want to mulch
Oh, yeah.
around.
Yeah.
They will dump. And I'm not sure what, if anything, is on the state level or otherwise in using those. I mean, it's illegal to not have a placard and park
Yeah.
there. Why is it okay for it to be a dumping ground of extra materials, whether it be snow, mulching, so forth? I didn't know if anything like that came about.
There was no discussion that. I literally just brought it up and said, hey, there actually is some guidance, and they very quickly said, we'll investigate. And that's kind of where it went, but I was glad that I at least brought it
it's
up.
a good question.
But it's a very
Yeah.
good question.
It is very, now that you've heard it, you'll
Yes.
probably even notice it more so, but.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely noticed it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I think when we notice it, we should take pictures and
Right.
document it.
Absolutely.
So, that would
Because
be
if
a
we
good
do,
idea.
I'm sure we would, I feel confident that we would get the quick action that you got,
Yeah.
just reporting that issue in front of Cherry Street Fish.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sometimes we need to leave them to water, I think. Then I think they'll take action.
Yeah, and this is something I didn't put on the agenda because I didn't have enough information before this had to get posted, but I have a meeting next week with the Assistant Town Manager, Jen Breaker, to discuss the bias and incident reporting form, which is those type of things. If somebody sees that, like, there's snow in the handicap parking spot, they could fill it out on the website, but I don't know, none of us have access to that. So I need to figure, my question was like, who's seeing it, what's happening, is action being taken on any of those issues? So I think those kind of dovetail really nicely. It's in the morning, but I can send it to you if you're interested.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so pictures. Take
That's a
pictures.
great
It's
idea. I never even thought of that. I mean, and it affects me directly. I never thought to take a picture.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to.
No,
Right.
no.
But, like you said, sometimes you have to lead them to the water. Like, it's not something, I think it's not a problem until it directs you personally or physically, that there's so many other things out there, right?
Right.
So unless it's really a problem that you feel for yourself or someone that you're related to or a friend or whatnot, it's harder to make it real. But with the pictures, it would be, oh, and here's another picture, and here's another picture.
Yep.
They'd be a little more difficult to ignore it.
Here's a whole photo album. Please fix them.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger issue is, at least this would happen on my, because my son was wheelchair bound, is that it just sends the message that people who are disabled don't matter. Like, that's what it feels like, that it's just like, oh, it doesn't matter, we'll just stick it in that thing because no one will notice, and it's like.
Yeah, like they expect the spot to be covered in cobwebs, like
Yeah,
it
it's
doesn't
like
get
just-
used.
Yeah, that doesn't get used, so, anyway, it's the wrong message, so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any additional questions or comments about access to sidewalks and parking spaces, and they're all kind of related?
The other thing that it made me think of, and I don't think you know, I don't think that we in town have a good solution for any of this, but I think it's a good beginning conversation. You know, some other towns and cities in the area have some very specific guidance and bylaws around snow removal. And one of the other pieces that I saw, I think it was in Beverly, as I was trying to figure out like where, specifically around people that maybe are homeowners, and they don't have the ability to remove the snow. And what do we do in those cases? Because of disability, they can't X, Y, or Z, right? And so I think people rely on neighbors and, you know, their circles of support and things like that, but it made me wonder, you know, more globally, holistically, is there something that we could be doing to support the community in a way that could address some of that?
Yeah.
What immediately occurs to me around that is the high school requirement for volunteers.
Exactly,
yes.
that
I mean,
popped
you could
into my
put
head as
together
well.
a group of people who volunteered to do snow removal, and if citizens were aware, they could submit their address.
Yeah.
And we don't need someone to check and see if they're actually authentically unable to shovel. That is
So you're
not
just asking for
necessary.
help.
You're
Yeah.
asking for help, and it could be a community help group.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if we have any kind of, I mean, a community helpline is way too like general, but like ones that are really like specific to certain situations like this, where it's like, oh, this is the dedicated, you know, account you contact if you need help or something like that. There's so many different ways for people to contact that it's like, oh, if we only do social media, that's ultimately going to alienate a bunch of people that don't utilize social media. Or if we put it on the town website, then the people who aren't on the town website aren't going to see that. It's tough, like finding that single meeting point to get that in front of people.
Right, like my next thought was the senior center, but that's also not going to identify or reach the entire group of people who may benefit and need this.
It still makes sense though, because that would be a more vulnerable population with the snow removal though, so that would at least be a good spot to start.
But if you look at like the demographics of town in terms of like people that live in, I was at the housing projection plan recently, and looking at the people that live in their homes and their age, right? That as you age, right, the incidence of disability increases. And so thinking about people staying in their homes and living in their homes and what does that mean for our community and our planning and kind of all of those pieces, given the large numbers of people that are coming into that age bracket. It made me think like, you know, more forward thinking, the town level is something that we really need to think about in supporting our community.
That just made me think that the Housing Authority and Affordable Housing Trust may be another avenue for that discussion too. Because it's not just about can you afford to live here or do you have a home here, but what can you do to help stay in your home? And so having access to people who help with snow removal could be one of those things. It's another Aaron Henry thing. To be like, hey, we have this idea. Yeah. And Lauren, you said you met the high school principal?
The high school principal is, he works for volunteers the same dog rescue that I rescued with, so I did reach out to him just to let him know about our committee. And he was very receptive, and I said, Dan Bauer had already known about it, so.
Well, maybe we could invite him
Yeah.
to a meeting and have some of these conversations about like, these are the ways that we would like to use high school students. Or not, I mean, not phrase it like that, but,
Well, there's some opportunities.
Yes. Yeah.
To be able to really engender within this young population, or this younger population, investing in one's community and what
Yep.
that means.
Another avenue is Essex Tech.
yes, yeah.
In fact, I just know because my kids have all graduated from there, and there was a mom who posted just that. My child, I harped on them every year. Here we are. He's going to be a junior, and he still has all of his service
Yeah.
hours to do. Does anybody have anything? So I know that they are looking as well. But that might be something as easy as guidance counselors
Yeah.
in the schools. You know,
Yeah.
if that is something, a way forward that we choose to use,
Absolutely, yeah.
but not to exclude them.
No, that's right, yeah.
Because there are Danvers students who attend there as well.
Absolutely.
I'll bring that up at Danvers Cares as well, because there's a couple guidance counselors there, like Whitney McNeely, and I'm blanking on the other names, but.
Great, awesome. Lots of good ideas. So then for an action item here, you're going to be at Danvers Cares. JD, a lot of stuff's sitting on you. Does anybody want to, or actually, Lauren, would you be open to, if you have a back and forth with a high school principal, asking if he'd be interested to attend a meeting?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
I have just a thought
Yep.
on that conversation. I don't know if it's appropriate or pertinent, but I do know that the current high school principal is only acting.
Oh, that's right.
And
You're right.
Oh, I thought.
Oh.
And I don't mean to diminish
No,
everything
yeah.
that he's done this year, but I know that the
Okay,
search is
sorry.
actively going on,
Oh,
and they
okay.
actually just this week, I think we're having
having
some.
this.
meetings
I
and
should have
those
known that.
candidates.
Like,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Right,
No,
right
they
in
were
my
doing
head.
interviews
Yeah.
yesterday.
Right,
Yes.
so I guess my thought is, to
Okay.
me, it seems like it's still good to reach out.
Right.
Because that person who's there now, I regret that I can't think of his name, really has his pulse on that program far more perhaps than the folks coming in, but maybe part of that conversation could be, how do we take this into the
Right.
next
Right,
administration?
yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, good suggestion.
It's good to have people who have kids in the high school. What's happening.
Oh yeah, and to make the like mulch and snow removal stuff in the handicap spots thing more like real, if any of you guys see that and get pictures, send them to me, because I'll compile a document. of
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, okay, perfect. And I will have it be part of the conversation I have with Jen Breaker next week as well.
For anybody who's watching this later at home that also is experiencing this, could they email you as well?
Absolutely.
You want to say your email address?
Oh, yeah, it's, what should we do? I'll do the Seen and Heard Show at gmail.com. It's just SEENANDHEARDSHOW at gmail.com.
Isn't it fun to like see if your spelling skills actually work when you do?
I've always prided myself on my spelling skills. I felt like I was pretty good at it.
That was fantastic.
Actually, Tree,
Okay.
Is it Seen and Heard or Seen and Heard Show? Will you open my phone and just check real quick? Just gonna double check that before I confirm that broadcast.
While we're confirming, is there any new business? Anything that
Left to right.
we didn't make onto the agenda?
I know we're running late, but I attended the HRAC meeting.
Oh, fantastic, thank you.
I did a little bit of a liaise there, and there was a couple things that came out of it. They were talking about a little bit about the current context that we're living in and kind of how that impacts potentially, things around inclusion and all of that, and just leaving some space for and kind of that recommitment for. So it was a really nice showing of HRIC and the committee. There's a lot to speak to. Really, we're here for the community, and that's what we're doing. They also discussed the upcoming Pride events that'll be starting up in June. Traditionally, they have flag raising on Saturday, one of the Saturdays in June, I can't remember the date, where they do the flag raising here at Town Hall, and then they do something on the library lawn, where they have like food trucks and activities, and it's more like festival.
Yeah.
So they do that, but the first Thursday in June, they started doing a flag raising at the police department a couple years ago as well. And I guess last year, they expanded it a little bit to include like dinner and snacks and things like that in conjunction with the police department. They're gonna expand that out even more this year because it was such a positive, wonderful thing. So they're gonna be providing, some dinner and some snacks and things, and they're hoping that people will attend that event as well.
That's awesome, thank you for sharing.
Oh, and they're looking for volunteers, anybody who's interested in helping.
That was good. not allowed to say yes. Did you confirm the email?
Yep, I was correct.
Oh, good. Fantastic. See, good memory. Okay, any other new business?
I'll just be quick. There was someone that was going to come in, but she must have run into a snag or something. But she's working on this project. She's talking about accessibility in dental care.
Oh,
And so I've had my own issues with that as far as finding dentists that I can fit in the rooms where I'm not halfway in the hallway. And the ones that I've found that have the bigger rooms tell me they don't accept you if you have Mass Health even as a secondary, which feels very discriminatory.
Yeah.
So, because you're pretty much required to have Mass Health if you have a disability in this state. So I was kind of talking with her last night, and she's working on maybe a paper or something, but I was thinking about like an informative pamphlet that could then be dropped off at some of these dental offices. But yeah, I'm still kind of talking with her about that. I was hoping she was going to be here to kind of explain some more of that, but.
Wow. Thank you for bringing that up. Like I had no idea. I mean, I understand the physical challenges, but the Mass Health part was especially.
I mean, it would probably be unique to have like a camera in my dentist's office and show the process we go through when I go for my teeth whitening, or not teeth whitening, teeth cleaning. I don't get my teeth white. And I'm like halfway in the hall. It's like, they're really nice. They're really great. They're right, off Route 1, but I'm like halfway in the hallway, leaning out. They have to shove the chair over. The chairs don't really move. They have all those wires.
Yeah.
And they always give me the tiniest dental hygienist so she can climb over my chair and kind of like monkey around the room,
Man. Yeah. If she's able to come, it would be really interesting.
Yeah, I'll
too,
talk
so,
to her.
Yeah. But and you're in charge of the agenda next time, so you get to make
Yeah, so I'll
decisions
see if
about-
she wants to come
Yeah.
on the next one.
Awesome. Okay, any last thoughts? This is our longest meeting. Yes, sir.
Can you take another 5?
Yes.
Why don't I step up?
Yes, please. Thank you.
He knows the rules now.
You're a good sport.
It's so important, though.
It is,
I just
yeah.
want to bring voice to the importance of it because not everybody can hear.
Okie doke. Talking about the Pride, I belong to the Danvers Art Association. And John Archer, you may know John, he's the president. I would say 2 years ago, some of the younger folks did a Pride art show
Yes.
at the building on
Yeah.
62. And I did go. I'm into photography, but a lot of the kids of all ages actually are into the painting and photography or craft, things like that. But I did go to support. And it was interesting to talk to some of the young folks and to see their artwork up there. But it was only that once, and I thought it would be a great tradition for them to pursue and have, but it never transpired again after that. So my thought is, with your contacts in the schools and the art organization,
Yeah.
the building, and John is open, as you know John, he's open to great ideas, and he encourages all persuasions to participate with art. So the building is open, and Jeff Surratt, you know Jeff,
Yeah.
he's one of the teachers, and he does phenomenal work with the students having their own art shows. And so there's a lot of resource there for Pride subject matter in any form of art, really.
Yeah.
And also, I create art shows at the Danvers Library. I do 4 a year for painters and photographers, both for the Danvers Art and for non-members, actually. But Noelle, you know Noelle, she is so wonderfully into culture of all sorts. And she has a whole year's worth of calendar space. I think now for 2025, she and I just spoke, and I think she is pretty much filled up for this year for all sorts of cultural shows on the walls of the standing room. But she would be another resource for Pride activity inside the building, in addition to what they do on the lawns outside.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. We'll definitely pass that on to the Human Rights and Inclusion Commission
Okay.
committee, their committee. Thank you. Okay. Anything else this evening? Okay, then I am willing to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
JD motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Karen motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 7:17 PM. Thank you so much. Our longest meeting ever, but it was great.
No problem.